Today is Wednesday, July 2nd. We'll tell you how the Senate secured exactly enough votes to pass as many of President Trump's priorities as possible all at once, and what still needs to happen before the Megabill becomes law. Also, what to know about what's being called Alligator Alcatraz and the White House's latest warning for migrants. Plus, why federal education funding did not go out yesterday as it was supposed to. How one tech company is protecting its clients from AI bots, and what one of the biggest music groups in the world told fans this week. Those stories and even more news coming up. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. It took an all-nighter and a whole lot of negotiating, but Senate Republicans passed President Trump's big policy bill. 50 Republicans voted yes, but all Democrats and 3 Senate Republicans voted no. So it took a tiebreaker vote from Vice President J.D. Vance to get it over the finish line. And with that, the GOP is on the verge of locking in Trump's top priorities. Those include tax breaks for the wealthy, more money for defense and border enforcement, as well as cuts to clean energy and social safety net programs like Medicaid. Granted, there are still more hurdles to cross before it becomes law, starting in the House. Even though House lawmakers already passed their version of it, the Senate made changes. So, for example, senators limited a state and local tax deduction, doubled a rural health fund to try to lessen the effects of Medicaid cuts, and more. So the House will have to take it up again. Republican leaders have said they'll do so immediately, and they hope to send it to the president to sign into law by the end of the week. But if the House makes any more changes, it will then have to go back to the Senate. Meanwhile, there's a lot of outside opposition to this bill, and one of the loudest critics used to be President Trump's top advisor. This week, billionaire Elon Musk criticized any member of Congress who campaigned on reducing government spending and then decided to support this bill since it will increase the deficit. Musk threatened, quote, "They will lose their primary next year if it is the last thing I do on this earth." Well, President Trump had some threats of his own, saying he could cut off the billions of dollars in subsidies that Musk's companies get from the federal government. And when a reporter asked Trump if he might deport Musk, who was born in South Africa, the president responded, quote, "I think we'll have to take a look." To be continued. President Trump visited the latest symbol of his immigration crackdown this week. Trump and his allies are calling it Alligator Alcatraz, and it's set to become the largest migrant detention facility in the U.S. The nickname is in reference to the location in a swampland in Florida's Everglades where alligators, crocodiles, and pythons roam. The White House considers all of it a plus, saying it will make it tough for anyone to escape. Or as Trump put it, quote, "The only way out is deportation." There's been pushback, mainly from environmental groups who sued, saying the ongoing construction will impact the habitat for wildlife in the region. That doesn't seem to be slowing anything down. In fact, Florida fast-tracked the construction, so much of the facility is already ready, and people could start arriving as soon as today. Eventually, officials say it could house up to 5,000 people at a time, and Florida National Guard members will be deputized as immigration judges, so the migrants will be able to have hearings within 48 hours. Now, President Trump says this is all just a template for what he'd like to do across many states. The U.S. has decided not to send some weapons promised to Ukraine just as Russia's war is intensifying. The White House says the decision was taken to put America's interests first. And the AP reports there were concerns about American military stockpiles falling too low. Still, the Defense Department said Americans should not worry that the military, quote, "has never been more ready and more capable." As of this morning, no comment from Ukraine. But the war is grinding on, with Russia launching some of its biggest attacks of the war this week. Peace talks have come to a standstill. They're being called scientific refugees, and they're fleeing America for Europe. It's part of what's being called a Safe Place for Science program in France. The goal is to woo researchers who have experienced or worry about funding cuts under the Trump administration. This week, the first 8 American-based researchers were welcomed to a French university. And more could be coming, since hundreds of researchers, including some from prestigious universities like Stanford and Yale, have applied to the Safe Place for Science program. Here in the U.S., the Trump administration has cut thousands of federal grants for research so far this year. Now some researchers are looking for funding elsewhere, like private foundations and charities, corporations, crowdfunding, and so on. And Europe is another option. Not just France, but also the European Union has launched a multi-million-dollar plan to woo scientists. Stay tuned. As expected, Europe's heat wave has broken records. England, Portugal, and Spain all recorded historic temperature highs for June. And yesterday, Germany recorded the highest temperature of the year. Today, the threat continues. Alerts have been issued for parts of Italy and France where it's not just hot, but humid. Some schools have closed, as well as some tourist attractions, like the Eiffel Tower in Paris and the Atomium in Brussels. And even though the heat is now considered extreme, the United Nations is warning that heat waves like this are a new normal. So governments are opening talks about how to adapt, especially at places like schools and hospitals. More news is still coming up, but first, thanks to our sponsor, Trade Coffee. Maybe you already have your go-to coffee, but unless you love it, like look forward to it each morning, there's something better for you. That's where Trade comes in. They introduce you to new, freshly roasted coffees that are next level good. Once you experience the excitement of getting that new coffee in the mail and the joy of tasting that perfect cup in the morning, there's no going back. And actually, Trade's prices are on par with grocery store brands, yet you're getting superb quality. Plus, you're supporting local roasters, so it's a win-win. Right now, my husband and I are really enjoying a blend from Panther Coffee with tasting notes described as creamy and chocolatey, with hints of sweet black cherry and ripe coffee fruit, finishing with a touch of fresh sugarcane. All I really know is that it's delicious. Oh, and if you're headed out on summer vacation, don't worry. Trade's subscription has lots of flexibility. You can pause or shift delivery while you're away and then resume when you're home, ensuring you'll come home to great coffee. Right now, Trade is exclusively offering our listeners 50% off your 1-month trial. That's half off at drinktrade.com/newsworthy. That's drinktrade, TRADE.com/newsworthy for 50% off your 1-month trial. drinktrade.com/newsworthy. Now, back to the news. It turns out most American voters prefer casting their votes early or by mail or both. The U.S. Election Assistance Commission put out a report this week. It found a surge in early in-person voting and busy ballot drop boxes ahead of the 2024 presidential election. This underscores how alternative voting methods are popular, even as some Republican lawmakers have questioned whether they open pathways to fraud. President Trump even signed an executive order targeting mail voting by saying all ballots must be received by Election Day. But that order is now facing several lawsuits. Overall, the new report found more than 158 million ballots were counted for the November election. That's a lower turnout than in 2020, but higher than 2016. $7 billion in education funding is now on hold. The money was supposed to go out yesterday to help pay for after-school and summer programs, support students learning English, teacher training, and more. But the Trump administration decided not to release the money. The White House didn't say much about the decision, just that the funds were under review to make sure taxpayer money is going toward President Trump's priorities. And it didn't say when or if the money would ever be released. But teachers' unions have criticized the move, arguing it's illegal since the money was approved by Congress and President Trump already. And now school districts are facing a lot of uncertainty, with only weeks to go before the start of school in many parts of the country. Even some summer programs are apparently in jeopardy. And the Boys and Girls Club says more than 900 of its locations may have to close entirely, impacting hundreds of thousands of kids. So if the money is not restored soon, the move is likely to be challenged in court. The University of Pennsylvania has made a deal with the Trump administration over transgender athletes. As part of it, Penn will take away records and titles awarded to swimmer Leah Thomas, and it will have to apologize to her competitors. Remember, she was the first transgender athlete to win an NCAA Division I title in 2022. But the Trump administration threatened to withhold federal funding unless the school changed its policies. So Penn agreed to give up all records, titles, or other recognitions awarded to trans athletes. And moving forward, the university won't let trans athletes in competitions based on their gender identity. And instead, decisions will only be based on what the education department says are biology-based definitions of male and female. Education Secretary Linda McMahon called it a great victory for women and girls. Penn's president put out his own statement saying the school wanted to make sure there was a respectful and welcoming environment for all students, but at the same time, it has to comply with federal requirements. So far, no comment from Leah Thomas. The tech company that manages about a fifth of all internet traffic has added some new guardrails, and they could change the way artificial intelligence companies build, train, and operate their systems. The internet infrastructure firm Cloudflare announced a new setting that blocks AI data scrapers from its customers' website by default. Those scrapers explore the internet, indexing and collecting data as they go. AI then uses the data to generate answers without always sending users to the original source. But now millions of websites, including the Associated Press and BuzzFeed, will be off limits. Eventually, the sites will be able to ask AI firms for payment in return for having their content scraped. So far, no response from AI companies. But some experts say the only way to truly protect content from AI bots is through laws, and lawmakers are considering the options now. It's the announcement K-pop fans have been waiting for. All 7 members of the popular band BTS reunited yesterday to announce they're getting back to making music. All of them had to complete military service, which is mandatory in South Korea. But the final member was discharged last month. So this month, they're coming to the U.S. to work on their next album. The plan is to release it next spring and then launch a massive world tour. BTS fans have been waiting for this since the first member had to enlist in the military back in 2022. Now the band members say they already have ideas and are excited to work together again. And that's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Work Wednesday, when we break down one interesting career or work-related news story every Wednesday. But first, I want to take a moment to talk about our sponsor, Hiya Health. You already heard me talk about my morning coffee, but there's also another part of our morning routine that always seems to feel pretty easy. And that's when it's time for my little kiddo to take his morning vitamins. My now 4-year-old is thrilled to get his Hiya Children's vitamins and probiotics and take them every day. He loves the flavor and the routine of it. I don't think there's anything else that has consistently gotten a happy yes from him every time for 2 years now. In fact, I feel great that he's taking them since they're formulated with the help of pediatricians and nutritional experts to help support his immunity, energy, brain function, mood, and more with 0 sugar and 0 gummy junk. And if you're tired of battling with your kids to eat their greens, Hiya now also has Kids Daily Greens Plus Superfoods, a chocolate-flavored greens powder designed specifically for kids, packed with 55 whole food ingredients to support brain power, development, and digestion. Just scoop, shake, and sip with milk or any non-dairy beverage for a delicious and nutritious boost your kids will actually enjoy. We've worked out a special deal with Hiya for their best-selling children's vitamin. Receive 50% off your first order. To claim this deal, you must go to hiyahealth.com/newsworthy. This deal is not available on the regular website, so go to hiyahealth.com/newsworthy and get your kids the full-body nourishment they need to grow into healthy adults. Okay, now back to Work Wednesday. Hundreds of thousands of Americans got a raise this week. Minimum wage hikes took effect yesterday in several states and cities around the U.S. For example, Alaska, Oregon, Washington, D.C., Chicago, and certain cities in California and Washington state. Exactly how much of a raise people are getting depends on the place. In Alaska, the statewide minimum wage is going up to $13 an hour. In Everett, Washington, just north of Seattle, large companies are now required to pay more than $20 an hour. Nationally, the federal minimum wage has been $7.25 since 2009. There are now bills being considered in Congress that could change that, but in the meantime, many areas have imposed higher minimums over the years. So now, 34 states, territories, and districts have mandatory wages over the federal minimum. More than 880,000 workers are expected to get a raise from this latest increase. Thank you so much for listening today and for sharing the show with friends and family or coworkers who may also want to feel more informed on a daily basis. We will be back, of course, tomorrow to keep you in the know. Until then, have a great day.